Who is Nehemiah, and why look to Nehemiah for lessons on leadership? The book of Nehemiah, one of the Old Testament's historical books, recounts the work of Nehemiah, an Israelite born in exile during the Babylonian captivity in the 5th century BCE. Even though Nehemiah was born in Persia, he grew up with an abiding faith in the God of Israel and deep sympathy for the plight of the Israelite people. He was aggrieved to learn from his brother that the Babylonians had left Jerusalem in ruins, the walls and gates broken down, and the people in distress. Upon hearing this news, Nehemiah fasted and prayed for months. Nehemiah had risen to high position in the Persian court, serving as cupbearer to King Artaxerxes, a position of honor and influence. When the king noticed Nehemiah's distress, Nehemiah requested that the king send him to Jerusalem. In 445 to 444 BCE, Artaxerxes sent him to Judea as governor of the province with a mission to rebuild the city. Once there, Nehemiah rallied the dispirited Jewish community, defied the opposition of Judea's enemies, and managed to rebuild the walls within just 52 days. Nehemiah is remembered for his skill as an organizer, but also for his dependence on God and his dedication to prayer. The opening chapters of Nehemiah offer a first-hand account of his call to return to Jerusalem in aid of his people. In the month of Kislev, in the 20th year while I was in Susa, the capital, one of my brothers, Hanani, came with certain men from Judea. And I asked him about the Jews that survived, those who had escaped the captivity, and about Jerusalem. They replied, the survivors there in the province who escaped captivity are in great trouble and shame. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been destroyed by fire. When I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, fasting and praying before the God of heaven. I said, "O Lord, God of heaven, the great and awesome God, who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments. Let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer of your servant that I now pray before you day and night for your servants, the people of Israel." In the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was served him, I carried the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had never been sad in his presence before. So the king said to me, "Why is your face sad, since you are not sick? This can only be sadness of the heart." Then I was very much afraid. I said to the king, "May the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad when the city, the place of my ancestors' graves, lies in waste, and its gates have been destroyed by fire?" Then the king said to me, "What do you request?" So I prayed to the God of heaven. Then I said to the king, "If it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor with you, I ask that you send me to Judea, to the city of my ancestors' graves, so that I may rebuild it." And the king granted me what I asked, for the gracious hand of my God was upon me. So I came to Jerusalem, and I was there for 3 days. Then I got up during the night, and I and a few men with me, and I told no one what God had put into my heart to do for Jerusalem. The only animal I took was the animal I rode. I went out by night by the valley gate, past the dragon spring, and to the dung gate. And I inspected the walls of Jerusalem that had been broken down, and its gates that had been destroyed by fire. Then I went on to the fountain gate and to the king's pool. But there was no place for the animal I was riding to continue. So I went up by way of the valley by night and inspected the wall. Then I turned back and entered by the valley gate, and so returned. The officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing. I had not yet told the Jews, the priests, the nobles, the officials, and the rest that were to do the work. Then I said to them, "You see the trouble we are in, how Jerusalem lies in ruins with its gates burned. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, so that we may no longer suffer disgrace." I told them that the hand of my God had been gracious upon me, and also the words that the king had spoken to me. Then they said, "Let us start building." So they committed themselves to the common good. Even this brief introduction to the book of Nehemiah reveals his savvy approach to leadership. Nehemiah was politically astute in understanding how to approach the king so that he could return home. Nehemiah was contextually astute, knowing that he needed to take the time to develop a deep understanding of the situation rather than simply relying on assumptions about the nature of the problems he faced. Nehemiah was astute about the community he led. He understood that it faced both internal and external challenges. And he was administratively astute. He knew he could not do the work by himself. Nehemiah had to engage others to help him with the work that needed to be done. When we think about the importance of the theme of rebuilding and the work that is needed in many of our congregations today, the book of Nehemiah really speaks to our current leadership challenges. In this study, Dr. Lovett H. Weems, Jr., Distinguished Professor of Church Leadership and Founding Director of the Lewis Center for Church Leadership, will guide you in considering key leadership themes presented in Nehemiah's legacy. The second unit of this study considers the spiritual grounding of leadership, how faithful leadership is grounded in God's call and bolstered by the power of prayer. The third unit examines the critical role of vision in effective leadership. The fourth unit looks in depth at the process of discerning and naming a relevant vision. The fifth unit lists up the essential element of engaging others and building a team. And the final unit reminds us that effective leadership requires patience and perseverance. I hope and trust that this study will be an inspiration and guide to you as you seek to understand the character of faithful leadership and become the leader God is calling you to be in the face of today's challenges.